So let's just start off. Game looks pretty good, you know. It doesn't look like ass. It really matched the theme that they were going for, like this brutalistic, like almost a socialist architecture mixed with like this weird enemy type, the orphans and stuff like that. Nothing really is like, it didn't look super like, oh, this is breathtaking, this is like, you know, next gen stuff, but it was enough to pass the story. It was enough to play the game, stuff like that, story wise. Yeah, like I really like the way the enemies look. They kind of did the Dead Space thing where the necromorphs just got armor and the orphans they got the little black goop to make them harder to kill. Neither here nor there. I think game was a little short. I think it took me 20 hours. It took me 20 hours or so to beat. Probably can do a new game plus run. Not too sure if I want to do it. Probably will. Who knows? I don't know exactly what I want to do. Probably gonna do new game plus to try to get that. If we go over to gameplay wise, it's pretty good. It's like a standard Dead Space. You lose the kinetic module from Dead Space in favor of being able to summon things, like summon like explosive devices and whatnot that normally would just be on the ground in Dead Space. So it's kind of like a new way to do it. Then you have like the little puzzle thing with the little lightning stuff. It's basically, if you just like Dead Space's combat, here have another game of it, and it's not bad. Like games like Callisto Protocol failed miserably in that regard, so it's really cool that this game managed to do it, you know. Yeah, the gunplay, like all the guns, it's kind of like Dead Space, the original Dead Space, where like every gun outside of the plasma cutter wasn't really necessarily an upgrade, like the flamethrower wasn't an upgrade and stuff like that. But the Dead Space remake, obviously the line rifle with the plasma mine would have been this type of thing. You get the BFG equivalent, which is just the one-shot anything button in the Arbalest, which is pretty neat. Obviously you have the survival horror resource limits and stuff like that, and that's pretty interesting, you know. Like obviously the menuing isn't like super in-depth, like, oh, you gotta have like Daisy level menuing or anything like that, or Tarkov, but it's just enough inventory management to make you actually, like, throughout the game, right, I'm always like, oh dude, I don't have enough bullets to continue, and then like right as I round that corner, there's a safe zone with bullets for me to get. So that was almost every single time after like a couple engages, like, man, I'm running out of shots, like I don't know what to do. I'm kind of worried I'm gonna you know, gonna have to tap out and double back. So like they paced it really well, in my opinion, for someone of my skill level, which is really nice. Like the very first, there's only one difficulty, and then there's most likely gonna be a new game plus with something. But yeah, like the pacing of the game was pretty good. Gameplay wise, every single time you get into a fight, nothing really felt cheap in the game. It just felt like I needed to do better, and for the most, I didn't die that many times, probably like 5 or 6 times I probably died. I wasn't like hard stuck on certain areas like I would have been in like Dead Space, because I was playing on the harder difficulties or anything like that. But this game, like a lot of the game felt fair. Yeah, the horror elements of the game are there through like the environmental storytelling and stuff like that. You're basically walking through like flesh canyons and stuff like that, so there's a lot of body horror, Lovecraftian mythos. Most of it's okay. Like the first 2 acts had a lot more horror vibes going to them. The third act was more just like jump scares with the church and all that stuff, and the crazy lady. Boss fights, you know, they were scary. The enemy types were scary. They kind of looked funny. I like how in the first act you kind of like, what the fuck are these things? Then you go to the hospital. Sorry, you go to the place where it all started, which was the steelworks, and you start learning more about like how it started. And then the third act, which was the hospital, you go there, you start seeing like like they're researching the disease. So you see like all these x-rays and stuff, and you see how horrifying these things looked. And we're not these like random robot superhuman things that the Traveler and stuff like that. But yeah, the horror elements were there. They managed to continue doing what they needed to do. It wasn't like super duper scary. Like I'm not 15 playing Dead Space anymore, you know what I'm saying? I like to believe I'm a grown man, and I'm not super terrified of it. So the horror was there. I think most of it was jump scare, which is unfortunate. Some of the stuff was like they shut the lights off, and I'm like, hey yo, give me back my flashlight. And they didn't. And then one of the smartest game mechanics, in my opinion, that I talked about in this game was the fact that you would have the flashlight. Like Dead Space did this really well, where you could only see, like, although you have like third person mode and all that stuff, and you have increased vision and whatnot due to third person, you're still kind of your vision is still hampered because you can only see what the flashlight sees. And basically the camera is slow, the flashlight's slower than your mouse movement, so you're not going to be able to keep up all the time. So with the sensitivity, there's a sense of urgency, and because now you can't, like, if something's behind you, you have to turn around, and it takes a while. So there's that sense of horror as the enemies get near you, and obviously you, the player, do not want to take damage or die, or you have to reset. But that aspect of horror goes around because you're basically viewing it through this minute lens, and it adds to the horror element, and it's a really nice gameplay touch. Like if there was like just everything was lights on all the time, no flashlight, it'd be kind of less scary, you know, all sanitized and whatnot. But it works out. Combat wise, again, it's just Dead Space combat. You know, it's nothing super duper new, but it does it well, unlike previous Dead Space clones like Callisto Protocol, where just shoot headshots instead of limb shots. You know, that's pretty cool. There's like armored sections of, you don't want them to, their unique take was that don't let them merge. You know, outside of the very beginning, merged enemies don't really pose too much. Outside of the very beginning, merged enemies, most enemies are like level 2 already, and then they'll merge into level 3s, and all that. Once they're level 3, they're basically like, just run away from them, don't even bother fighting. So there's kind of that regard. You have the whole, that the rationing system, because you can't hold that much ammo for all of your weapons, and it's just a kind of a struggle in that regard. The big boys, enemy types, you know, there's like 5 or 6 enemies in the game, and then they just kind of give us some variance through health. It's not terrible, not amazing, but you know, it's cool. You know, you're the big fat guy, you have the standard enemy, you have the crawly boy, you have the wall dude, and you have the little green boy that explodes into acid. You know, it's not really much for you to care about. You know, like Dead Space 1 had like, I think like 6 or 7 enemies, and then all of them after that are just variants. You know, something terrible. I think this game's 13 hours probably could have been a little longer, you know, because unfortunately if we go into like the actual stories, okay. You know, at the beginning I was kind of interested, towards the middle, kind of, once we got out of the hospital zone and we made it back to, once out of the hospital act, I was kind of like, I don't really like all in mystique, because I really cared more about the orphans rather than the individual characters. Going back to the enemies, they're well designed. They all pretty much do the same thing, except for the spitty boys spit and then they slam. The big guys slam hard. The normal enemies can run at you quickly, or they run moderate speed and they can slam you. And then you got the jump scare guys that are just stronger and so forth. And it's like, compare that to Dead Space, where Dead Space was a little longer, had a lot, not really more enemy variety, but like more ways to kill enemies and stuff like that. It wasn't too bad. Was this game a good, if this is a very good start, if this is this studio's first game, I really do like it. And then like the story, as I was saying, when it comes to Act 1, I enjoyed it because it was like, oh, it's a new shiny toy, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. There's like this deep lore that I had to figure out, and you're running through it. It's like, okay, I don't know who I am. I have to get my target, find the target, got my phylactery, and now I got my target, and now I'm gonna go back. Oh, the thing doesn't work, so now I got to go to the Steelworks to see it, and then just Steelworks go there. You're like, oh my god, this is how the orphans came to be. Look at them, they're monsters. Holy shit, these guys are crazy. And you go to chapter 3, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? We're trying to figure out who's starting the orphans. We're trying to we're on the clock because the people that we have in our phylactery are slowly killing us and all that stuff. And then once you get to Act 4, which was, so you got to go find the Pathfinder, and it's like, oh well, actually the Pathfinder was the warden the whole time. And that's kind of where you lost me when it came to the story. all the way up to like the middle of Act 4. I was like, what the hell's going on? You know, I don't really understand what's going on. But that's just on me, obviously. Maybe I wasn't paying attention that much, but it was kind of cool seeing like the basically devolution, or when the outbreak happened, you kind of watch that go on and like see the way the government and the people are trying to cope with it, try to figure that stuff out. That was pretty cool from a writing standpoint. It's really unfortunate that they focused more on, they didn't really focus on the collective at all, or the vocation, what the hell it's called, though, the thing that we're uploading into from the terminal. Didn't really focus on that at all. Like there might have been some stuff, but I didn't really feel like I was learning anything about that. What the fuck are the orphans? Like, where did they come from? Never really explained at all. Like it just says, oh, we're gonna fix this, and it's like, is it an ending thing? Because like it didn't, like, it sounds like the way that the story's written is that the orphans show up after the Pathfinder shows up, but it's like made very clear, oh, it's not the Pathfinder that did this, it's the when they dug too deep or something, that's when the infection came out. I'm not too sure what's going on there, but yeah, the stories, it's okay. I'd say to, you know, compare it to Dead Space 1 and Callisto Protocol, it's between the two. It's better than Callisto Protocol. Dead Space 1 I think is still the better game. Just from, I think Dead Space, like the original, like even the remake, like the original Dead Space 1 is probably better than Cronos The New Dawn. The remake blows it out of the water, but it's definitely a new addition to my collection, so to speak. The biggest problem I have with this game that I think is just unacceptable for any game that's coming out is performance issues. This game really struggled. I'm on a 4060 and it struggles a lot, which is just kind of ridiculous. I understand that the game is graphically intensive, but like you have this really hyper linear story content with, you know, quite a bit of branching paths, so you can kind of go look around and be like, oh dude, I'm so smart, and do things like that. Like it wasn't, this game shouldn't be that technically hard. Like it looks cool. Like most of the game is pitched out black anyways, because you can't see it through without the flashlight. So I'm just inclined to say that it's a major failing of this game, that this game barely fucking runs. And it's sad because I don't think I crashed. Actually, no, I did crash twice. I crashed twice. And like if you watch the final boss fight, like it's almost unplayable. Like the first time I fought the boss, it was unplayable. And it's like, this is supposed to be like this huge climax with the Pathfinder. A lot of these newer games, they start off good, they can't stick the landing, you know, like Wu Chang Fallen Feathers is like that. The ending, the final boss, like the final boss in this game wasn't terrible like Wu Chang Fallen Feathers was, but I don't think they really stuck the landing. Kind of felt a little short because it's only a 13-hour game. Like Dead Space is 20 to 30, you know. If you're not running through it quickly. Dead Space is, I think, a couple longer. Like I could have probably got this within 10 hours if I knew what was going on half the time, and I wasn't like searching every nook and cranny. And even then, I didn't even get a perfect score in that regard. So yeah, I really did enjoy the game. I think it's probably, like, realistically, it's probably my third favorite game of the year so far. I haven't played Ninja Gaiden 4. That just came out, so there's a good chance it's going to change. But we'll see. Definitely it's up there right now. Like if I had to pick three games that the top three games I played this year, it's going to be Clair Obscur, Hollow Knight, Silksong, and then Cronos The New Dawn's a good third. It's definitely, if like, I don't know, I have to hold, let's check. Monitor mode time. Boop. Where's my video capture? Boop. Ooh. Is this their first title? Oh yeah, there was also that bug where you couldn't buy items, which is like unplayable. It makes the game literally unplayable. You can't buy items. Bloober Team. Is this their first title? Oh no, this isn't their first title. Let's see. It's their first title I've ever heard of. I think Layers of Fear I've heard of. Yeah, Layers of Fear. Oh, they made Silent Hill 2. They probably helped with that on Silent Hill 2. So yeah, the Cronos The New Dawn, it was their first title I've ever like actually heard of, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, I for a studio that's basically never made a decent, like, I think Layers of Fear is a better horror game than this, but like realistically from a studio that's relatively unknown, this was kind of a really good hit for them. I hope this performs well. Story wise, like, you know, there wasn't any modern day tropes or anything like that, which I enjoy. It's just, here's our self-contained story. We're not running around here trying to culture war their way through it or anything. We just want to tell our story, and that's just something that really adds character to settings that I think a lot of games miss in the more modern titles right now. They much prefer picking whichever side of the culture war they want and pushing that, rather than just focusing on telling a good story. And this game, you know, doesn't tell an amazing story. It's not Clair Obscure, it's not Hollow Knight Silksong, but it's there. You know, it's you can kind of keep. I kind of was keeping up all the way till the end because I think my cat distracted me for like 5 minutes, and then it's like, oh, I missed some key points. So I'm not gonna, for it comes to the story part, I'm not gonna completely blame them for me being confused. I think that's just on me because I'm kind of retarded, you know. But yeah, I think on a scale out of 10, if Clair Obscure is like a 9, Hollow Knight Silksong's a 9, Stellar Blade's like an 8.5, I'd give this game an 8. You know, I think it's better than Dying Light, so let's say 8.5. I think it's Eliza P with Overtures an 8.5. Dying Light the Beast, that's an 8. So I think it's safe to say this game's an 8.5. You know, like Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, I fucking put that shit as a 6 because the performance issues in the game just fucking pissed me off at the end, you know. So it's like, there's all that good stuff. But definitely this game's, I think, a solid 8, 8.5. If you like these types of horror games, survival horror games, you know, it's just 10-hour fun, you know, $60. It's a little steep for $60 for only a 10-hour game, and you know, there's probably 2 or 3 endings. There's a minimum 2. There's probably New Game Plus ending, so it's like $60 for a 20-hour game. You know, maybe that's up to you. It took me like 30-40 hours to beat Hollow Knight Silksong, so it's like, and that was $20. I'm sorry, I think that might have been 40. That was $20 or $40. Pretty sure it was 20. So it's like, kind of got to compare that for a value proposition. You know, it's enjoyable. I like the setting. I'd like to see more of it. But yeah, it's a solid 8.5 out of 10. Probably a little overpriced, but you know, it is what it is.